let me know if you have any questions. And as we get started, we'll stand, we'll warm up the body. And so we'll just begin a little bit of a spin. It's going to rotate our spine. So let the spine begin to move a little bit. And this is a great way to figure out if everything's okay. Is your body going to allow you to move with ease? Is there something going on that is irritating? And that way you can adapt and modify. Maybe you can figure out what to do about the problem. And then we'll just take the arms up and down. Now remember, warm up is different. I've been moving around a lot this morning, so my body's already coming into this a little warm. If you've been doing that too, your warm up doesn't have to last as long. If you're starting off cold, you may need to do some of the things we're doing for longer than I have you do them. Let's soften those knees, rock the weight back onto those heels, lose your balance a little bit. And then go toward the toes, bend those knees, lose your balance a little bit more. And so just go back and forth like that, losing balance. And then we'll do it with one foot forward of the other one, lose the balance. There we go. And then the other foot goes forward, lose your balance. Great. And then stand with good posture. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, start pushing your hands together. Now you want to feel the chest muscles engage and then keep them engaged as you bring the hands up. And then inhale, draw the arms apart. And we'll do that again. So we're trying to get the pectoral muscles active through different levels, different fibers. We're going to do this to one side. So we start on one side. It feels different on that one side, but as we go across, it transitions to the other side. And then we inhale. And then we exhale. Be sure you're breathing in or out. Don't hold your breath. Now, inhale and exhale. And again. Okay, good. Now lift up the shoulders, pull them backwards, stretch those arms back, exhale. And then let the shoulders go forward. Make it broad between the shoulder blades. Breathe in there. Reach and squeeze back and exhale. Shoulders forward, inhale. And once again, reach and squeeze back and exhale. And we'll let the arms relax apart. Now stand so that your feet are about shoulder distance. Push the feet and the knees outward. Engage your core. Lift the chest, but lower the shoulders. Now one hand pushing to the side prevents us from collapsing. Lift the ribs, the arm up on the other side. Take a deep breath. Exhale and lift yourself up and out. And then press out the feet again. Pull in the core, chest up and shoulders down. We're pushing onto the side as we tilt. We're lifting the ribs and the arm up. Inhale. Exhale, reach yourself up and come out. All right, now we're taking a wider stance. Bending the knees, hands to the knees. And we reach across the body, slowly, gently stretching and breathing. And then we go across the other way. We take it to that first side again, inhaling, ribs open. Exhale, we reach across the other way. We inhale, the ribs open. Exhale, we come to center and we shift our weight to one side. Now you can stay up high or you can come down low, hands on the knee or hands on the floor, whatever is comfortable. We're just finding that inner thigh stretch. We'll come up, we'll go the other way. You may do it a little differently one side to the other because it's probably going to feel tighter one side versus the other. Again, the first side, release that. Just a very gentle, a slight stretch. And again, the second side, gentle, slight stretch. Now we're going to come to center, and you're welcome to keep the elbows on the knees and just lift the hips to a mild hamstring stretch. But you could also let the arms and the head hang, and that will decompress the spine as we breathe deeply, a little swaying side to side. And that's great. Hands on those knees to help you come back up again. And then we're going to do some squats. We can put our feet about shoulder distance wide, keeping the weight back at the heels. We assist with the arms. Weight on the heels, arms reaching forward. The knees and the toes point the same direction. We decide how low we're going to go at first. Now, this is not a tilt the chest down. This is keep the chest uplifted. And it's helpful to have the arms assisting us with that. But if we cross the arms, the counterbalance of weight isn't as strong. So you're going to find that a little more difficult. Keep that weight on the heels. Keep breathing. And if I emphasize back extension, even with just raising the arms upward, I'm going to find that any little bit of compensation I was doing is eliminated, and I have to work even harder. Great. All right, we're warmed up. We're ready for the first action, which is called kettlebell swing, but you may or may not have an actual kettlebell. These are both a 5-pound, one's a kettlebell, one's a hand weight. I'll show you with the hand weight first. Well, actually, I'll show you the holding of the kettlebells that we would hold it like so, all right? We'd hold it in our hands. So I'm just gonna hold this hand weight just like it was a kettlebell. I'm gonna stand with my feet shoulder distance or maybe a little wider, mat distance, maybe a little wider. And we're going to bend our knees and we're going to place the weight slightly backward. And then we're going to push the heels and push the pelvis forward. Now the kettlebell can swing, but it should be a natural outcome. I'm not swinging in order to make the movement happen and moving my back. What I'm doing is I'm pushing the heels and pushing the pelvis forward. And it will feel like there's a bit of a swing, but it's not a very strong arm exercise isolation. It is a combination of both the arms and the legs. And so we're trying to get a really nice activation through the glute line. A nice activation like that. Yeah. So it is a fairly vigorously paced action. You'll find that it's going to complete a bit of that warm up. You can feel your heart rate increasing. And it's a rather nice one to do. Now, we've worked the legs, so we're going to do a little bit of an arm action using a lat row. Now, here again, there's a variety of things you can use. I'm going to show you a little bit using a strap, but in case you don't have a strap, we probably have a hand weight. Now, I prefer using a platform that makes my body a part of the action. So I'm holding this in my right hand. I step my right leg back. I bend the knees, placing my left elbow on the knee and stretching my right arm down. Now there's 3 pieces to the lat row. There's the elbow pulling back, there's the shoulder moving toward the hip, and then there's the elbow moving toward the spine. And so we think of this as back, down, and in. And that's the lat row. Now, if you said, oh man, my body is too tired today, I do not want to support myself with my body, give me a chair. It's fine. You can kneel. And that's a little easier. It's a little easier, but all 3 pieces, back, down toward hip, in toward spine. Now that's what it looks like if we're doing row. But if you have a strap, the strap offers an interesting change to using hand weight because it begins the tension lighter and increases the tension heavier. I'm going to sit. You could be seated in a chair, but I'm going to have the strap around my feet. My knees are bent so that it helps me stay upright on my sitting bones. I pull the elbow back, lower the shoulder down, and bring the elbow in like I'm trying to just hold a piece of paper against my rib cage. So it's back and down and in. I like straps. I highly recommend that in a home gym to have a set of both these flat straps. There's tubed straps. There's straps that are in a circle already, or you could tie some of these together. But they make a great workout companion. They're easy to take with us because they pack so well. They're weightless and don't take up space. And they provide the contraction as you pull, but they also are providing resistance as you release. And so that's rather nice. Now, I like doing this one arm at a time. I know with the strap, it looks like, well, okay, I could pull both at the same time. Technically, we could lean forward and use 2 weights at the same time, but arm strengths tend to be different. So using a one side at a time method is often better because it's going to engage us in a way that that allows us to allow those differences, one side versus the other. Okay, very good. Now remember, if you are finishing sooner or you're not done and I'm moving on, no worries. It's expected that your timing will be your own. Now, we're going to be working the abductors as well as other parts of the legs with this next one. It's a side step and maybe with a squat in between. This kind of band, this circular band, they come in different intensities. This one says it's medium. And of course, that's relevant to the, whatever company made this, what medium means. I'm placing this around my knees. You don't have to have a strap. You do just fine without one. but make sure when you're putting them on or taking them off, you're not going to fall over, especially if you've got furniture around, you don't want to fall into it. Now we could just do this as a side step. And so I keep a little bend in my knees. I've got this placed above the line of the knee, so my knee's not going to be irritated. And I step. So this is just a simple side step, but I'm telling you, it is anything but interpreted as easy by my body. And then we step the other way. And so you could do it just as a side step. But there's this opportunity that as we step to the side and we have our legs wide, we go into a squat, keeping those knees separated. You decide what depth of squat. Step together, step wide, squat. Don't let those knees come together. Don't let your body collapse. Keep it nice and uplifted, okay? And nice and slow pacing. And you step equally one direction versus the other. You're definitely going to feel this in your legs, whether you're just doing the side steps or the side steps and squats. These are a well-known, good activator, both of the outer hip and the glute area. Hard to know exactly how to count those. I say get a good head of steam, get a good fatigue going, and you can say, yeah, that must be 10. And that's fine. Especially in round one, where you're like, oh, I'm not so sure I want to even be working out. Here we go. All right.
Do ankle weights work as well as the strap for this?
Only if you're on your side. The ankle weight is going to pull your foot toward the floor, but it's not going to resist your leg moving outward. So it's not as good as a strap, except unless you're on your side and then the weight of gravity. So that's one of the things about weights versus straps. Straps work no matter your body posture. Weights work only when your body is holding a very particular posture. Okay, now we're going to be working with our core. We're going to be creating, I'm going to show it the sort of the wall, pretend wall surface here, that what I want to do is two completely different actions. There will be a part where I'm extending my back in an arch, and there will be a part where I am flattening and rounding my back. And we could do that with this wall crunch, the pull upwards, sway the hips toward the wall. That is the extension of the back. And you bend the knees and round your back into the room. There's the crunch. So that's in case you don't want to come down. And do be mindful of how your back feels about this, because I'm going to show you a few levels. And this can irritate your back if you go too far, too much intensity, or just too many repetitions on a back that's not used to it. So it's called curl to bridge. And the curl part, I'm going to start with my feet very close to the body. I am going to flatten my back and bring my legs one at a time into my chest. There's the curl. There's my back flat. There's the crunch of my belly. Then I'm going to bring my heels down extra close to the seat muscles. Have the back in an arch away from the floor position, pressing heels, seat muscles tight, knees reaching toward the toes. I lift up so the back is now in a curve. And then I'm going to come down and then deliberately flatten my back, pulling that belly for good measure, leg in. And then heels touch, back arches. So this is the more simple method. But, all right, I could have my feet further away when I flatten my back and keeping my back flat. One leg, the other leg pulls in, back still flat. I would always bring my heels down close, arch the back first, and then reach the knees as I come up, seat muscle action, back in an extension. Coming down with the back staying extended, and then I could walk my feet outward, flatten the back, pull the belly in, and with back flat, one leg at a time coming in. Okay, but there's another way to do this. Okay, so heels down, press, low back curved, here I'm reaching. If I'm going to go further, I can stay up and walk my heels further out there. Come down with my back arched. Flatten the back. Pull one leg, pull the other leg in. And still, my heels come down close so that I have better seat muscle action, low back arched. So I go up with my back arched. I come down with my back arched, or I walk the feet out further and come down with my back arched, flattening back, pull the belly in. So the further the legs are away when you pull the legs in, the more difficult this action. It will eventually make sense to you. It's like a dance step. It will eventually be like, oh yeah, okay. And at first it's fine, but pay attention to how your back is feeling, okay? I teach plenty of things where we roll up into a bridge with a flat back. We're just trying to create a contrast. We're trying to have one part where the back is arched and one part where the back is deliberately flattened. So go with that contrast with this. Okay, great. Now, this next one, I want us to be very stable. And doing a lunge, stepping backward in a lunge can create a little bit of loss of balance. So I'm going to show you a lot of different versions of this, and you will find your own level, and that is as it should be. Now, as I'm starting, I've got this chair, and I'm only going to lightly touch. I'm not going to hang on for dear life because it's not that bad of a balance problem. I'm going to step a leg back, and depending on my knee condition, I can lower the heel and just lightly bend both knees. I never let that front knee go past its ankle. And then I can step back forward again. I can do that on the other side. A step and the foot comes down. I always keep the weight on the front heel and step forward. I can also step back initially with the foot down on the heel at the back, lift the heel up and bending the knees, keeping the weight on that front heel. Don't let it go forward. And step forward. I'll do it again. Stepping back, initially the foot is flat, then I lift the heel, bending the knees and stepping forward. That's a little bit easier to balance. But if I want the challenge of it, I step back, landing on the ball of the foot, keeping on the ball of the foot, bending the knee, weight on that front heel. I don't let that front knee go past the ankle. You saw I just had one fingertip touching the chair for balance. I step back, stay on the ball of the foot, and don't let that front knee go past the ankle. And then stepping forward, weight on that heel, weight on the heel, so the back of the leg knows that we want to make contact, make action there. There are other versions, but for round one, it's good to do these. And by the way, can your knee go lower? Sure, but the front knee is not supposed to go forward of the ankle, and the knees are supposed to be happy about what we're doing. Also, you can take your leg back substantially far, but if you have trouble coming forward again, that makes you lean forward, well, you step back too far, okay? So step back comfortably far, come down comfortably low. You don't have to get the knee all the way down to the ground. Just pay attention to what front leg is doing, and then create the action like that. And that's a good lunging action. So work on your form, especially in round one. And that's good. Now, when we've done 10 on both sides, we're ready to switch to what is called the French curl. And this is a great tricep and forearm and hand activator. But you'll want to use two weights unless you have a long bar. You can use a single weight, but it tends to place the hands close together. And what I'm going to be doing is creating an action where basically I'm touching the edges of my weight together. And I'll be on the ground, but I'm just showing you close up that I'm going to be creating this kind of a bend, and those elbows are going to stay lined up with the shoulders. Now, I don't do it that way. I really don't, because that's not the force of gravity that I'm going to work on. That's not working the proper muscle. If you find that coming onto your back is not possible for you, then my recommendation is that you create an action that would be more like this, hands overhead, and bending and straightening like that. That would be great. But the French curl, you're on our back, okay? We're sticking those arms straight up in the air, and we're touching the very ends of the weights together. These arms are right above the shoulder. They'll stay there as we bend the elbow toward the hairline. Don't hit your head with the weights, and then straighten. By the way, my palms are facing the ceiling, we'd say. And then coming down, nice and slow and controlled. Your body may interpret this as, oh, we're bringing in, the arms are moving a lot. Oh, no. So from the shoulder to the elbow, there's just one position pointed straight up at the ceiling. And you're going to feel this. You may not feel it in your triceps. You may feel it in your forearms. And that's fine. It's fine. This is a compound, complicated exercise requiring very particular positions to get to what we're trying to work, which is a combination of the back of the arm, the triceps, a very specific turn of the wrist that includes the forearm. And this is all really good. It's good for your thumbs. It's good for your fingers. It's good for your forearm. It's good for your elbows. It's good for your shoulder. And it's good for your attitude. You do some of those, you'll think, oh, okay. Excellent. All right. And that completes one of the cycles of 3 that we'll be doing. And if you're not finished, you just finish up at your own pace. Now, when we've done that, we come back to the kettlebell swing. Now, in some training methods, we would always increase the weight each cycle that we did. But we can stay at the same weight or change our technique as we'd like. This time, instead of using a hand weight, I am going to do the kettlebell that it gets named after, but you can still use a hand weight if you like, or a jug of water or something like that. I'm going to stand here. My feet are nice and wide. I'm going to hold the weight, and I'm going to bend my knees and put the weight slightly toward my heels. I'm going to press onto those heels and push my pelvis forward. So the swing is happening as a combination of what my pelvis is doing. I'm not, that's not it. That's not it. There's a press. It's almost like I'm slow motion jumping. I'm keeping the weight on my heels. And this time I have the arm a little forward, but I could have the arm a little lower. That put less stress on my back if I had the hands just hanging there. More stress on the back, which isn't necessarily a bad thing when your arms are forward. All right. So you're creating that action, that movement. It'll become second nature to you as you start to do it. You'll feel heart rate increasing. It's a good beginning action. Gets that circulation going, gets us really super warmed up. And so we feel the action of that. It's quite nice, quite nice. And that's good. That's good. So you complete when you're complete, and then we're going to be doing something specific to the arms, the lat row. So here again, let me use the chair. I want to use just a weight in my body. So depending on what equipment you have, hand weight's probably more easy to have. The weight side of the body, that's the back leg. I crouch, so I'm supporting everything with my own body posture, and so I create this action. A lot of times I see people, they're just rowing and they're just doing the back movement, but they're not creating the other 2 important movements. So it's back toward the hip, toward the rib cage. All right, go toward the back, go toward the hip, go toward the rib cage. It can be a single smooth movement getting all together at once, but it is the 3 movements that our lat muscle does. So we want to emphasize those actions. With the strap, it's a little different. So the angle of the arms is a little different. I'm sitting on my sitting bones. This is going to work a different part of the core for me to sit like this. I've got my hip flexors working. So it's not just an isolation of the lat. My chest out, my shoulders down, chin nice and level, so I pull toward the back, toward the hip, in toward the ribs. So back, hip, ribs. And I can do it all as one smooth motion. So all 3 gives me a more full action of my lat. It releases tension from the neck. It decompresses the shoulder. A lot of times we top out. We don't have that downward away from the head toward the hip movement enough, and this means that we're extraordinarily tense between our neck and shoulders. Upper trap muscle is a problem there. So the strap works a little differently than a hand weight. As long as you're going nice and smooth and slow in both, you're going to develop very well. So I wouldn't say one is better. I just say they're different. If I was using both arms at the same time, I would only do that if my arms were very companionable, about the same strength. And they cross-compete a little bit. You won't get quite as much activation if you're doing both at the same time, oddly enough. So there we go. There we go with the lat row. And now we're trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do with this side step? Am I going to just step without a strap? Certainly you can. If we don't have a strap or don't want to use a strap, we bend the knees. I tend to take a bigger stance, bigger step when I don't have a strap around the legs, but you don't have to. I don't bring the feet really close together. So that's just a side step alone without the squat. And that would probably be better if you had some upsetting knee issues going on. But we could, without a strap, side step, squat, keep those knees separated, side step, squat, right? And you just make sure that you're stepping in one direction the same amount of times as you do the other side. So there's not just, I step to the left and then I'm done. It's like, no, there's something good about this. And I tell you, it's, it's better. I could do this and I just do this one side, but there's a really important transitional element when we lift up and move our leg the other way. So you can use a circular strap. You can tie a flat strap together if you don't have one that's already in a circle, but these are really inexpensive, easy to come by online. I don't know that I've seen them in stores. You probably are, depending on if you're truly a athletic company store or not. But indeed, those are good to have, and a lot of variety of uses for them. So nice things to have at home, getting that side step accomplished. Very nicely done. Okay, so we're now trying to get to that core structure, and we really are trying to create both this action where we would crunch the front and flatten and round the back and tuck under that tailbone, but we're also trying to create an action where we're in an arch of the back. We're going to be working hip flexors and we're going to be working glutes. And so there's a lot of combination happening within this curl to bridge. Okay, so I'm on my back and I'm starting off with my back arched, feet close, flatten the back, pull the belly in, leg in, and then heels brought down really close to the seat muscles. Back arch, press heels, seat muscles tighten, knees reach away, seat muscles tight, and come down, back flatten, and in. Okay, so that's a simple version, but I could just start with my legs further away, and from the arch position, flatten the back, pull the belly in, and then bring the heels in close and down, arch the back, push and lift. I could come back down and walk the feet further out, or I can walk my feet out while I'm up there. Yeah. And then come down, back is an arch. Now back is flat, belly pulls in, one leg, back stays flat. And then heels come down. Now, if your feet are way far away and you flatten the back, and when you lift that leg up, your back arches, no. You would move those legs in until you could pull that leg in with your back staying flat, okay? Those are safety features. Those are things that give you the kind of workout that you're looking for, the one that's going to transform you, not the one that's going to reinforce what you already have. So you might want to spend a little bit of time just finding out, where can I go that I can lift my legs and keep my back flat? And that would be the maximum distance that you'd want to go out, okay? Real important. When you are arching the back, pushing down the heels, seat muscles active, you want to keep that, and you want to just, if you're going to walk those feet out there, it's going to be harder the further you come out, and you got to land on your seat muscles and not on your back. And then there's the flattening, and then there's the belly pulling in, and there's the leg, and there's the leg, and we're ready to start it again. So, nobody's going to come to us and give us a ribbon for walking the feet further away. It's just going to be more of a challenge. And so choose the challenge that is most appropriate to you, okay? And know that if you choose the right challenge, you will be tired, but you will not feel like you've done something unpleasant to your back. And that's really important, because we're working on the idea that we will strengthen our back. We're not trying to do something that takes a back that's not strong and forces it into a crisis, all right? So work within that, because if you choose the right level, perfect. And if you push yourself too hard, yes, we don't want to be that way to ourselves. Nice. Okay, and now we're working on the concept of the lunge. And in this one, we're going to add a little bit of arm movement to it, okay? So again, I have a chair available to me. I can use it or not, but I want it there just so that I'm more stable. And if you don't have a chair, you can touch a wall, right? Touch a wall beside you. Okay, so I said that it's perfectly okay to land on the flat foot and even stay on the flat foot with just a very light bend of the knee. I also said it's okay to step back, and from the flat foot to lift into the ball of the foot, bending the knee. And it's also the other option, step back, staying on the ball of the foot. Those are all correct. However, what we're going to do is, instead of having the hands touching the chair, what I want us to do, if possible, if we're balanced with it, arms are forward, we step back, whatever way, foot down or foot lifted, or just laying on the ball of the foot. And when we sink down, the arms come up. Now, don't forget what your front foot is supposed to do. We don't want it to go forward like that. We want to keep the weight on the heel. So when the arms come up, I'm still thinking, oh yeah, that front heel is pressing. All right, so my arms are forward. I step back and bend and come back up and step, right? So not that hard. You could have your arms touching the chair and step back and then raise, because you don't want to be falling all over the place. So stepping back, raising. Our brain is far more likely to allow us a certain amount of balance if it knows that it can escape, if it's not feeling like it's forced and unpleasant. And this arm works, if I'm going to keep my heel down, sure. I don't have to bend my knee very much to do the arm thing. Like back, and then a little bit of bend. And so as long as your knees are happy, good. Keep that alignment, work with the action, do it slow and steady at first. You'll find that your body's like, oh, okay. We're just adding those things in that are going to challenge us, challenge our movement, our balance, our coordination, moving this body part and that body part at the same time. That's what we're after, is something that gives us that kind of challenge. And so our goal is to do about 10 on each side. And that might be beyond what you want to do. You may say, I'd rather do 12 or 13. Don't do 20 in place of 10, because probably you're not doing it with enough intensity. You should be slow and steady and smooth is our goal. Nice. Now we're ready to work the back of the arm. The French curl is what we're calling it, although you could do the standing one arm action as well, creating the activation like that, just standing and doing that, or sitting and doing that. But I'm going to show you the traditional French curl. I talked about, I prefer that we have two weights to use, but what if you didn't have two weights? How would you do this? So if you had a single weight, you'd place your hands as if there was another weight. You just hold the edge, getting the hands as comfortably far apart as you can, arms straight up, and then bending and to the hairline and coming back up again. So there you go. If all you have is a single weight, well, okay, this works. Otherwise, though, two weights touching their ends together puts my hands at approximately shoulder distance wide, and then the same action. I do keep my knees in bend. I don't want to force my back to, I don't want to do it this way, because that puts so much more needless strain in the low back. So the legs in this position allows us to create more of a neutral, less intensely extended low back, so that we can concentrate on the area that we're focused on without our body interpreting this as, oh yeah, that's going to stress my back. Don't want that. I do feel a lot of this in my forearm area. It is moving into the tricep muscles too, but the forearms are saying, yeah, why are we doing this? Because this is a position, a posture of the arm, when you think about it, that we really don't go into that much. And so it's a good cross train. It's a great one. If you want to do a different tricep muscle exercise instead of this one, that's fine, because it is, technically for the triceps. It might not do the same thing for the forearms, but that's okay. Choose the one that seems to be the right one for you at the time, and know that there's a lot of different formats of working each muscle group. So, choose the one that's the most delightful, and that's great. Okay, so now we've rounded the corner into the ending the second cycle of the activities, so that we can start again. And what we're looking for is, now that we've got a body that's not only thoroughly warmed up, but a little tired, we may sort of push ourselves a little bit safely to do more, to leave ourselves feeling safely exhausted, or we may be backing off because yesterday was a tough day and so was the day before, and tomorrow's going to be a tough day, and so we don't want to do as intense of a workout. So you choose how you work your intensity, right? You know how you feel. And so if you want to push a little bit, that's great. If you want to back off and use a lighter weight or less intense action or less repetition, that's fine too. There's also a way to do it in a, I do some more intensely and then I back off a little bit. So with the kettlebell swing, I put the weight on my heels, I come down, I push forward. So it is the pelvis that's making the kettlebell move, all right? Not just my arms. My arms are holding it. If I have my arms more outward, they start off more outward. They don't radically change. They stay pretty much the same position that they were in. And we don't feel it in our low back. We feel our legs becoming active, but we don't feel it in our low back. If you want to have a little bit of swing in the shoulders at the end of the movement because you find that pleasant and it's not bothering your back, fine. This is the one that probably of all the ones has the potential of being the one that's the fastest paced, and that's fine. That's a nice high intensity interval for us. Okay, good. And then we're deciding, well, what do I want to do with the lat? What am I doing with my lat? So I'm going to start with the strap and then I'm going to transition because, this is the thing. If I have more than one device, I can do sort of a buffet. I can create a medley of action. So I'm going to uplift and I'm going to pull toward the back, drop toward the shoulder, pull in toward the ribs, and do my 3-part. And then I'm going to do the other side, back, down, and in. So I'm working one side and the other. That's what's nice about the strap. I'm already in position for both sides. So I can do the 3-piece back and down and in one side, and back and down and in on the other side. And I can just work them back and forth, really concentrating on that instead of doing a whole bunch on one side and then a whole bunch on the other side. This one might work, especially in a body that's getting a little more tired. It lets me really concentrate on what each side needs. A little harder to switch so frequently when you're using a hand weight. So I tend to just stay on one side. So we step back using my body as its prop. This allows more of a stretch in the beginning than I'm able to get with the strap. I pull back, I move toward the hip, I move toward the ribs or spine. I feel a very gentle stretch between my neck and my shoulder when I'm in the right position. I feel a nice grip, like I'm holding something against my rib cage. If it's not fatiguing you, go slower. Go slower. So we get a nice action in those lats. Okay, then we're figuring out, okay, side step, with strap, without strap. And, if you have more than one of these straps of different intensity, well, then by all means, change the intensity. Some people do like to have the strap around the ankles. For what I intend for us to do, that's a little bit too tight, too intense to do a squat. If you were just doing the side stepping, it's fine. But watch out about straps being around the ankles. That can sort of irritate the knee a little bit. That's why I'm starting off with the strap above the knee, so it won't be any irritation. Knees stay soft. Even if I'm just stepping to the side, I do have my knees in a very slight bend, so it's not my normal straight legs stepping to the side. It's a little bit of a bend. That also protects the knees a little bit. But I can do the step, squat, and I get to decide the depth of squat. I just want to make sure that whatever I'm doing, I'm not letting my knees crowd together. All right. So you'll know when you've finish the number that's going to be equal to doing 10. You're like, yeah, sure, that feels like, I've done enough of that. Your burning sensation of lactic acid, very easy to develop in those areas. But make sure that your knees don't think that what you did was an unfriendly thing. Okay, so there was our work for the abductor part of the leg as well as the glutes. We have 3 glutes. We have glute max, which is the seat muscle. We have glute medius and minimus, which are at the side of the hip. So those are our 3 glute muscles very much involved in that action. Okay, now it's time for that curl, which is the crunch, to the bridge, which is the extension. So we're basically doing a crunch and an extension, which you could do at the wall, or we can do happily on the floor. Now, if I know that I've been working with my legs further away, I can start with them pretty far away. And I can flatten the back, pull in the belly, and then one leg at a time, bring the legs in. Back's got to stay flat and focus on that flatness. And then the heels are going to come down super close. Press those heels down, arch that back, then lift the hips up, knees reaching toward the toes, nice long spine. And then if I'm thinking I really want it to be hard, I'm going to walk my feet back out there. Lower, not landing on the back, landing on the seat muscles, flattening the back, one leg in, the other leg in, crunch, and then heels coming down. But I could just, at any time I wanted, say, I'm just going to come down and I'm going to leave my heels closed, and then I'm going to flatten my back, and then one leg at a time I'm going to pull in. All right, so, and you could just do that. You could say, well, I'll do the intense version of this every now and then, and I'll do the easier version when I'm ready. So, anytime you want, you just change your action, walking away, maybe not as far, coming down on the seat muscles, flattening the back, pulling in. All right, so arching and then lifting. Yeah. So you're trying for 2 actions, 2 very important muscle groups of the
Julie, if we're doing that against the wall, it seems to me that it's more of an action with your back, not upper back, but your back like above the waist, as opposed to a hip action.
What you're really wanting to do when you're creating the crunch is to tuck under the tailbone and get the lower part of the rectus abdominis active. So not just ribs toward navel, but tuck under the tailbone toward the navel. When you're arching and leaning the pelvis toward the wall, you're arching back. It's not exactly the same. It's a completely different exercise that is a substitute for the exercise we're doing today, which is the curl to the bridge.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah, it's not going to be absolutely compatible. You're correct. There's going to be some differences, but it's something. It's something that will work the same muscle groups. Yeah. So, and that's fine, because sometimes we're not going to want to, or not going to be able to create what I have on hand here or on the ground on the back, and therefore we put in a substitute.
Yeah, my floor is just way too slippery.
It's okay. Again, whatever reason, just desire. We just do it the way that works. As long as we are working out, as long as we're doing something, we're getting stronger. Okay. But indeed, we're not going to find that things are absolutely perfectly the same. There's going to be some differences from one exercise to another. So if I'm going to be creating this lunge, again, there's the different methods. And this time, if you wanted to, you could use hand weight. Okay. Now, the thing about it is that this changes a little bit of how I'm doing things. I'm going to use a single hand weight. All right. So I've got it near my shoulder. And as I step back and bend, I'm coming up and down. So you see there's this up and down action. Now, I'm going to do only, one step, one lift. So stepping back, I could have the heel down if I wanted to, up and down. I'm really thinking about that front leg, that I want to make sure that its heel is down and the knee's not moving past. If I have 2 weights, could I use 2 weights doing one side? You bet. You bet. You're not going to have any way to stabilize yourself, so you got to be pretty comfortable with your balance if you do this. So you step back, and then your both arms coming up. So step back and both arms coming up. And you could switch. You don't have to do, you could do one and then the other side. Make sure you got your balance, because it's gonna mess with that balance unless you're solid with your balance action. That's something new. But remember, we could also do this, that as we have the arms forward, we step back and the arms are coming up. Remember that front leg. And we could also just touch, make sure we're truly balanced, and then come upward. And we can just keep our hands on that chair. These are all good. These are all great adaptations, because I don't know what your balance is doing. I don't know how your ankle is handling things. There's so many reasons to do things one way versus another way. Choose the one that is going to satisfy the amount of intensity you want and what your body is needing to have as an experience. And just work it to the point you've done 10 on both sides, or you're saying, I'm substantially fatigued now, and I am ready to stop doing that. All right, so again, several different descriptor ways to do that, to create that type of lunge. Lunges done properly can truly help us gain some strength in the muscles that support the knees, okay? But don't step so far back or make it so irritating that your knees are hating you for what you're doing. All right. When you have finished with the lunge action, it's time to do tricep work. Remember, I've been talking about just seated positions. The arm would be in the overhead position. We'd be bending the elbow and straightening the elbow. And it's not the same. You can't just stick the arm out here and, and bend the elbow and straighten and say, oh yeah, that's the same thing as the French curl, because the gravitational pull is not. So there's really not a great way to create that. I've played with the concept. There's just not a good, with the strap around the body like this and the arms, stretched outward, bending the elbows. It does not quite do it. You could do it this way though. It's similar, but not quite the same thing as the French curl in a reclined way. But any tricep work you choose to do is still tricep work, and that's great. But for today, the specific exercise is this French curl. So here I am. The palms would be, if my elbows are down, palms are up. I'm holding the weights that way. I'm straightening the arms completely and putting the ends of the weights together. And then we're making this bend of the elbows, and I'm aiming sort of my hairline and then straightening. And I feel a little bit of wobbliness. It's not so much that this is too heavy of a weight for me, but I'm fine. And then I get to, the slower I go, the more I feel that there's a fiber or two that are a little less. So I'm going to do this one really, really, really slow and just work on, not necessarily a number count, but work on developing this fatigue. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you ever start to feel like, I'm getting this. This is really easy. I want something to be a little bit more engaging. Well, slow it down. Slow it way, way, way down. You're going to find that in order to control that slow and smooth motion, that you are using a lot more muscle. And that is going to develop your skills and abilities. And it's going to eliminate some of the sloppiness that's built into the quick method that our body wants us to use. And it's like, I didn't have to do 10 of those before my arms were like, we're really feeling the fatigue. And it is not the number count that makes us grow stronger. It is the fatigue of the body. So let's say I did 20 of them, but I used a very fast method and I used a very light weight. Well, my body's probably not going to really develop as if I did, let's say 7 repetitions with an appropriate weight and a very slow method, and I got this tremendous burn of effort in the muscle. Yeah, my body's going to notice that and it's going to respond to it. And that is a very important part of our training. It is the response of the body to the exercise. And that's why there needs to be sort of a window. In fact, the window pretty much comes before the class. You want to sleep well before the class. Get your full 7 to 10 hours before you do your intense training. You want to eat your breakfast before the class so you have plenty of protein and carbohydrate to fuel the action. The carbs give you the energy. The protein is giving your body a nice reassurance that it's going to have enough for the action. And then post-class, the immediate window is the hour. It's best to have a 30-gram meal of protein after the class. If you're waiting to eat like an hour before the class, then make it more carb-based and use your protein as an after class, because studies have shown you actually get more out of your body from that, more protein synthesis. That means your body is stimulated to building. So think of that immediate hour, but then think about what you're doing the rest of the day. You want to add a little bit more rest in there, and then sleep your 7 to 10 hours that night. And then the next day, don't try and do another intense workout. Give your body a day off of intensity. Still exercise. Don't stop your exercise. Just, do something different than weight training, right? And of course, if this was not an intense workout for you, great. You had a nice moderate workout and your intensity could happen on another day. Excellent. You might have some questions, maybe specific questions about what we did in the class. I always welcome those, either right during the class as it's happening, because it'll come to mind and I don't want you to forget, or after class if you're saying, there's something I didn't quite understand. Perfect amount of time for us to discuss that. And if you want to do it privately, you're more than welcome to contact me. You can do it via email or telephone or text. People have been asking me a lot of questions, asking me if I'm doing group classes here, and I'll tell you, I'm not. I'm doing private classes, and by that I mean that I could work with you privately, or I could work with you and 2 of your friends or other compatriots at the same time for an hour class. So if you happen to know 2 other random people that want to invest in a private session with you, then you can do it that way, because I have in the studio enough space for us to safely distance and work out 3 people in the room at the same time. But other than that, I have no plans for group classes, because again, we just don't know. But there you go. If you want to talk with me about that, we can do it now, or again, you can seek me out privately, because there's plenty of time slots available for us to have your semi-private class. You can do it that way. Excellent, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It is so good to see you all here. I hope you're going to be able to join us too.